Hello, welcome to Indus News, live from Islamabad. I'm Raja Saroj Sahib, and these are the headlines. The US says it has not validated the Taliban government in Afghanistan but will continue to engage with them for evacuations. A White House spokesperson says no one in Washington believes the Taliban are respected and valued members of the global community. Meanwhile, Afghanistan's acting premier Mohammad Hassan Akhund has called on former officials to return to the country, saying their safety will be guaranteed. The US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has warned that time is running out for Iran to return to nuclear deal. This comes after International Atomic Energy Agency chided Iran for failing to explain uranium traces found at 3 undeclared sites. Meanwhile, Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi said a counterproductive approach of the UN agency will disrupt the negotiation process. Israeli forces have injured over 100 Palestinian protesters in the West Bank city of Nablus. Palestinian Red Crescent Society said at least one man was shot with live fire and 7 with rubber-coated steel bullets. The protesters had gathered against Israel's aggression towards Palestinian detainees and harassments of their families. In North Macedonia, at least 14 people have died in a fire at a hospital that treats COVID-19 patients. Meanwhile, Pakistan has registered 84 deaths from the virus and over 4,000 cases in the past 24 hours. Globally, the COVID-19 death toll has exceeded 4.59 million, while the caseload has topped 222 million. In tennis, top seed Novak Djokovic beats Matteo Berrettini 5-7, 6-2, 6-2 and 6-3 to reach the semi-finals of the US Open. Meanwhile, in the women's single, Maria Sakkari also advanced to the semis with a 6-4 and 6-4 victory over Karolina Pliskova. That's all with the headlines. We'll be right back with the details after a short break. Welcome back. CIA's Director William Joseph Burns has appreciated Pakistan's role in the Afghan situation, including successful evacuation operations. He called on Pakistan's Army Chief General Qamar Javed Bajwa and DG Inter-Services Intelligence Lieutenant General Faiz Hamid. The two sides discussed matters of mutual interest, regional security situation, and the current Afghan situation. It was reiterated that Pakistan remains committed to cooperating with its international partners for peace in the region. The visiting dignitary lauded Pakistan's efforts for regional stability. Burns pledged to play the role for the further improvement in diplomatic cooperation with Pakistan at all levels. The US says it has not validated the Taliban government in Afghanistan but will continue to engage with them for evacuations. White House spokesperson Jen Psaki made these remarks in a press briefing. She said no one in Washington believes the Taliban are respected and valued members of the global community. US officials say the Taliban have agreed to let 200 American civilians and third country nationals to leave Afghanistan. They said Washington's Special Envoy Zalmay Khalilzad pressed the group to allow the departures. Meanwhile, Afghanistan's acting premier Mohammad Hassan Akhund has called on former officials to return to the country. In an interview, Akhund reiterated the Taliban promise of amnesty for anyone who worked for the US and its allies. He also stressed the group wants to establish positive and strong relations with countries in the region and beyond. For more on this, we are joined by Dr. Hasnain Javed, Foreign Affairs expert. Thank you very much for your time. The first question is, the US and its allies have more or less conditioned release of Afghanistan's funds based on their checklist that they want the Taliban to strictly follow. Would this carrot and stick method benefit Afghanistan that has just come out of a 2 decades long war?
different kind of sanctions, different kinds of promises, different kinds of understanding between the different nations. It is entirely a different part. But if you could see the White House spokesperson, Jen Psaki, that she said that there would be no recognition of Taliban government soon. So there are so many other countries which is working on it. And if I talk about the understanding and economic conditions, which is, recently it says that China will be our main partner for the Pakistan and assured zero threats for Afghan soil. So one of the major important pivot point is that first they have to assure. Second, China has given the grant of 300 billion for the recent grant, and the many other grants will be there. And if I talk about the ISF grants and other things, which is again a different issue. In August 15, economy has shrunk by 1.9% in 2020. Whereas the 80% of Afghanistan budget is financed by aid, as everybody knows. And the recent criteria, same as the 37 million that SDR currently, which is equivalent to 52.2, nearly not enough to sustain it for long. So there is another aid which I talk about, and you just mentioned about that, which is the Afghanistan Bank. Listed is the 10 billion in asset for 2021. So including 1.3 billion gold and 362 million in the foreign currency cash as a reserve. So in this situation, there are many other contingency plan could happen, but the restrictions, sanctions, and acceptability is the main issue right now for the economic situation. As far as Pakistan is concerned, there are many other ways. We are into the LAC, we are into the APTA, we are into the 97% of the work has been done in APTA, and we are the largest agreement on Afghan-Pakistan transit trade agreement. So Pakistan is on move. Pakistan is in a way to relationship with the Afghanistan, but the peace is must. Without peace, there is no economy, there is no anything. But one thing I wanted to assure that before, if I see in 1996 to 2001, it was the era where it was a different Taliban. Now this time around, the expected government is not that what the whole world were expected. And the new thing is that this Taliban, how could this Taliban accept China? How could this Taliban could accept Russia? So this troika is going to be, different in nature. So in my personal view, in my personal opinion, I'm not seeing that way that there would be the grant or the aid problem. But there is another internal issues have been there because, for example, there is a parallel black economy. So I don't want to mention, I don't want it to be, I don't want to get into that way, but there is a parallel black economy is there. I mean, the largely Americans' involvement would there into the large scale production of opium and other things. And mostly the Afghan economy is dependent on the black economy. So I'm not going into the production details that how much billion in the tons and tons of the opium is being done, or the weed or any other thing, and obviously the weaponry. So the situation is quite dramatic. But in that case, the situation for the Pakistan and the guarantee for the Pakistan is must. Our foreign minister, our DGISPR is mentioned clearly on the behalf of military that the peace is must. We must Afghan Taliban or the new government, which was not expected. Like Hassan Akhundzada was not expected. Abdul Ghani brother was expected in a different way, but he was a co-founder, but he is now next to the command. and Sirajuddin Haqqani, Mullah Yaqub, Amir Muttaqi. So this construction is interim. So far we cannot say, for another 6 months we have to see the different aspects and different ideas, what is going to be happen. But the most important thing is that the United States connection and the Indian factor is very important. This is a news for you people might be. There are so many Chinese companies working already in Afghanistan. So the Chinese pact with Afghanistan might get the better economic condition in Afghanistan. So this is the very initial, you can say that this is very initial aid that's been given for about 300 billion. So maybe they would increase in that, or obviously we still cannot comment on the previous economy, which is already dependent on 80% of the aid, as I told you earlier. So even if it is other conditions, if the whole world cannot come into that way. But very important things why they are not accepting. Although the economic condition, although the peace condition, they are not out of war. The main, very important thing is that the Taliban stated that we are now out of war zone and we don't want to we don't want to continue the war, and we want a complete peace, economic prosperity, and harmonization. So let it be with the harmonization process. So why are not they accepting? If the Vatican City, the complete Christian theocratic society or a theocracy-based society is there. So what is the hurdle behind the, accepting the Taliban? So if I talk about the organization, governmental structure, so it is mainly or parallelly, or I can see like the way the Iran take up the government. It is a complete theocratic government. Same as that they announced that it would be complete Sharia based or government, or it would be complete, you can say, the Sharia law based system. So what this do is the government would comprise of 25 ministries with consultative council. So this is the idea they are getting into. The consultative council or the shura or the 12 Muslim scholars or the loyal jirga, or you might say the grand assembly. So it is the same model where has been taken by their, and so you have seen that I just missed the name, that the one is the religious head of the whole Taliban. So next then is the superior council, and then is the governmental structure, which is the presidential system. So it is parallel to Iran system. Now you can see you can say that in the Southeast Asian region, we have another theocratic government. There is Pakistan is so-called democratic, obviously. I don't know, we are the mixed democrats or the whatever type we have, but it is might be theocratic government, it is democratic, autocratic, any critic, I don't know. Moreover, it is based on the critic organization. But well, the structure would have like, it is complete theocracy-based structure, which is dependent on the Sharia law. And as you have heard, the name of the Iranian structure is Al-Walayatul Faqih, has been given and coined term by Imam Khomeini. So it was the structure that one is the minister of their area. For example, he is the minister for defense, but he must have the authority on Islamic Sharia laws. Then as the one is the minister for the finance, minister for the production, minister for transport, minister for anything, but must have the highest degree of Sharia.
All right, so what are the biggest challenges standing in the way of a stable Afghan government that could boost the regional connectivity?
see, what Taliban says, I mean, this is to be on the positive point. I have taken up the few, mixed points, not completely pro, but not completely negative. But if I focus on the Taliban, what Taliban want, they want a strong and healthy relationship with the neighbor and all other country based on the mutual respect and interaction. Then is the law about the territories. So what they are saying is that not conflict with the complete Islamic law and the country's national values. So what they want national identity. Second, they says Taliban or the cabinet selection. Why should we let other pick our cabinet when other countries pick their own? So this is very valid point. So in comparison, like in 1996 Taliban till 2001 Taliban, the first Taliban, previous Taliban, and this Taliban is entirely different. I don't know, you can, it is very soon to comment that which sort of this government, but they have their internal issues as well. It is completely internal. There are so many other groups in power and they wanted to be in power. But the surety of this Taliban is, what I'm saying is the Afghan spokesperson even invite, it is very important, the China factor. So what we have to have in our mind is the China factor. So Afghan spokesperson said to be more involved in Afghanistan peace and reconciliation process and play a bigger role in future reconstruction and economic development. So a spokesperson, the mullah, I think the spokesperson is now been changed or the same. So, well, what this is in the brother of the foreign minister, Wei Yang-yi, the Beijing as the part of the group's diplomatic outreach following Kabul fall, China said it was looking forward to the friendly and cooperative ties with Taliban. So even before the government, even before the governmental structure, even before they announced the governmental structure, the China was with them. And now it is apparent that China is completely in Afghanistan, and if the condition in Pakistan, there is a Gwadar, there is a complete route to the landlocked countries, there is a Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, the 5 countries which is landlocked, and then is a route to Afghanistan. We have a APTA, and APTA was the trade transit program, but still it was not that much quicker, faster and everything, but there are so many other issues could happen, but the whole dependency is on this issue. And second important point is the Putin, what Putin says. So for more trustworthy partners, what they say is that this Taliban government is much better and much forceful and much continuable, because the Putin says that the previous Taliban government was the puppet government in Kabul, the Ghani government. So Russia is now, on the same page. So they believe that the Taliban takeover on Afghanistan can strengthen its partnership with non-Western powers. So the clear divide, the paradigm shift. But it is one is the paradigm shift. Second is the psychological shift. It's a complete psychological shift. Taliban was continuous in war for the 20 years, for 20 long years. So this is the right time. They must have to focus on the economy. They must have to focus on the internal current affairs. They must have to focus on the domestic economy. If there is no economy, if there is no, the structural things. In an easy way, if they don't have food, there is no economy. If there is no economy, there is just a war. So there is need of the psychological, change, and I can see that little economic change, but the different elements like Daesh and ISIS, yes, it could be the factor for the concern. What I see that Pakistan military have played a wonderful role in that, and we have to be, we have to watch it in depth, that what is going to happen in other 6 months, and that other 6 months is prominent and very much important.
Dr. Hasnain Javed, thank you for joining Indus News. Moving on, Pakistan's aircraft carrying relief goods and humanitarian assistance for the Afghan people has arrived in Kabul. It is one of the 3 C-130 aircraft that have been sent off to the war-torn country by Islamabad. Officials say the package Officials say the package comprises around 10 tons of flour, 1.5 tons of butter, and a huge quantity of medicine. Earlier, the country's foreign office said Islamabad will continue to do its best to help Afghans during the prevalent challenging environment. It added that Pakistan also urges the international community to play its role to prevent the humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan. Meanwhile, China has also pledged $31 million in immediate aid to Afghanistan. Foreign Minister Wang Yi announced the measures of Six Nation Conference on Afghanistan. He said the establishment of the new interim government in Kabul is a necessary step to restore order in the country. The U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has warned that time is running out for Iran to return to the nuclear deal. In a press briefing, Blinken said Iran's advancing nuclear program can render the return to deal pointless. He said U.S. envoy for Iran, Rob Malley, is consulting with Russia and European states on the matter. This comes after International Atomic Energy Agency accused Iran for failing to explain uranium traces at 3 undeclared sites. Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi has warned the counterproductive approach of the UN agency will disrupt the negotiation process. He made these remarks in a phone call with European Council President Charles Michel. Raisi said Iran's cooperation with the IAEA shows its will to observe transparency in its nuclear activities. Earlier, U.S. Navy's Mideast Base 5th Fleet said it will launch a new task force invoking airborne sailing and underwater drones. In another story, Israeli forces have injured over 100 Palestinian protesters in the West Bank city of Nablus. Palestinian Red Crescent Society said at least 1 man was shot with live fire and 7 with rubber-coated steel bullets. The protesters had gathered against Israel's aggression towards Palestinian detainees and harassment of their families. Massive rallies are being held throughout the West Bank in support of the prisoners in Israel's jails. The occupying forces are also arresting relatives of Palestinians who are on the run after escaping from a maximum security prison. The Arab coalition says it has destroyed several explosive-laden drones launched by Houthis. In a statement, the coalition said the drones were aimed at the Saudi city of Khamis Mashhad. Meanwhile, the coalition-backed Yemeni military claimed to have launched the biggest air raids on rebel sites in the city of Taiz. A Yemeni army official said airstrikes destroyed ammunition and missile stores, rocket launchers, and a command and control room. The Arab media said the coalition's missiles struck the city's airport and an air defense military base. Earlier, 60 rebels and 18 pro-government troops were killed in fighting for the strategic city of Marib. It's time for a short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. In North Macedonia, at least 14 people have died in a fire at a hospital that treats COVID-19 patients. Globally, the COVID-19 death toll has exceeded 4.59 million, while the caseload has topped 222 million. More in this report. The mutating variants of COVID-19, rising cases, and faltering vaccination drives have prompted nations to step up restrictive measures once again. The Pan America Health Organization has warned that new cases in Americas are nearly double the rate than last year, this time amid lagging vaccination rates. U.S. President Joe Biden is set to present a 6-pronged strategy to fight the spread of dangerous Delta variant. In Europe, the bloc medicines regulator has added an extremely rare nerve-damaging disorder as a possible side effect of AstraZeneca's vaccine. Meanwhile, Austria has decided to impose restrictions on unvaccinated people in future as the occupancy rates in intensive care units rise.
Klar ist, It is clear that we do not intend to impose any restrictions on the vaccinated, but will put in place protective measures for the unvaccinated where necessary. There is therefore a step-by-step plan, which we will also forward to you, that affects the unvaccinated.
Germany is extending its COVID-19 emergency aid for struggling companies by 3 months until the end of this year. Ireland has announced to give vaccine booster shots to elderly people who were fully vaccinated at least 6 months ago. New Zealand has reached a deal with Spain to receive over 250,000 doses of the Pfizer vaccine. Meanwhile, despite rising cases, Sydney's cafes, restaurants and pubs are set to reopen in the second half of October.
I want to stress that whilst today the New South Wales Government is outlining our plan, our roadmap for the way forward in New South Wales, that we're definitely not out of the woods. We know that case numbers are likely to peak in the next week or so, and we also know that our hospital system will be under the greatest stress in October.
In Asia, Taiwan has announced to issue stimulus coupons to boost consumer spending by $7.22 billion to support its pandemic-hit economy. Japan has extended curbs in Tokyo and other regions until the end of this month to prevent overwhelming of hospitals. Meanwhile, coronavirus has claimed another 84 lives in Pakistan over the past 24 hours. The Health Ministry says the death toll has reached 26,497. It said more than 4,000 people contracted the virus overnight. The country's caseload has exceeded 1.19 million, while over 1,076,000 have recovered. There are more than 91,000 active cases, of which nearly 540,000 are critical. The ministry says almost 21 million people in Pakistan have been fully vaccinated. Indonesia and Australia have agreed to boost ties in the areas of defense and security. The two sides signed a series of deals in a ministerial meeting in Jakarta. Indonesian officials say a memorandum of understanding were reached on counterterrorism, defense and cybersecurity. They say the possibility of Indonesian military cadets attending Australian academies was also discussed. Meanwhile, the two sides also exchanged views on the political developments in Afghanistan and Myanmar. They also expressed support for the peace efforts of the Southeast Asian Regional Envoy. Australian defense and foreign ministers are on a 4-nation visit to Indonesia, India, South Korea and the US. In Morocco, long-ruling Justice and Development Party has suffered a crushing defeat in liberal rivals in parliamentary elections. In the provincial results announced by the Interior Minister, the party saw its support collapse from 125 seats to just 12. The National Rally of Independence bagged 97 seats, so far for the highest among the parties that contested the polls. Meanwhile, Authenticity and Modernity Party ranked second with 82 seats, followed by Ishtiaqil Party with 78. The turnout in the parliamentary elections was just over 50%, higher than in 2016. In the US, Robert Durst's murder trial is nearing its conclusion 6 years after his apparent confession to multiple killings in a documentary. Durst is accused of killing his friend Susan Berman at her Beverly Hills home in 2000. As closing statements began, Los Angeles County prosecutors compared multimillionaire's heir's testimony to cockroach soup. The prosecutors showed a photograph of a bowl full of insects in court, urging jurors to discard all of Durst's testimony. Meanwhile, defense lawyers objected to the photos but were overruled by Superior Court Judge Mark Windham. Prosecutors alleged Durst killed Berman because they knew too much about the disappearance of his wife in 1982. North Korea has celebrated the 73rd anniversary of its foundation with a nighttime military parade. Leader Kim Jong-un attended the event, which was held at the Kim Tu-sung Square in the capital Pyongyang. Paramilitary and public security forces wearing hazmat suits with medical grade marched at the square. However, unlike last October, no missiles were seen or mentioned in the reports, nor did Kim deliver any speech. At least 87 people have been rescued after two passenger ferries collided in a river in the northeastern India. The head-on collision caused one of the boats to sink in the Brahmaputra River. One person has died and 2 people are missing, while the Indian Army has joined rescue operations. The cause of the accident between boats carrying at least 90 people was not immediately clear. However, the Chief Minister of Assam said the district administration will register a criminal case on the accident. He also said a high-level inquiry will also be instituted today. In India, heavy monsoon floods have displaced more than 1 million people in the northern Uttar Pradesh state. The displaced have been forced to live in tents on roads after their houses were submerged in water. The victims in the state's Gurpur city took shelters on higher grounds with their cattle in makeshift tents alongside road. They say they are starving and awaited government aid. Rains support 2/3 of India's 1.25 billion population living in rural areas that rely on farming. However, excessive precipitation causes problems like floods, landslides, and waterborne diseases in the country. In the US, a statue of Confederate Commander Robert E. Lee has been removed from its base in Virginia after a year-long legal battle. More in this report. Since 1890, the memorial has stood at Mount Avenue in Richmond, the former capital of the pro-slavery Confederacy. One of the controversial Civil War leaders has been the focus of protests in the United States over racial injustices.
It's a beautiful moment in this country. You know, this isn't the end, but this signifies that we're accepting the past for what it really is. We can't hold the Confederacy and people like Robert E. Lee on statues anymore. We've got to hold the truth on a statue.
The 21-foot bronze statue of Robert E. Lee is one of the largest in the United States. Memorials that honor leaders of the Confederate side have become targets of protests against racism. Defenders of the statue say they are tributes to the bravery of those who fought in the Civil War to defend the South.
It's been a long time coming. I'm a native of Richmond. I've been here all my life. I'm 60-some years old. And so I've been passing through and seeing this. For it to finally come down, man, it's a moment of joy for me because it represents so much of oppression, depression, because who Robert E. Lee represented.
Earlier this week, the Virginia Supreme Court unanimously ruled in 2 cases that the statue could be removed. During the last 6 years, more than 300 symbols of the Confederacy and white supremacy have been taken down, while some 2,000 still stand. In business, European stocks have retreated and investors cautiously await the ECB's outlook on inflation and interest rates. The European Central Bank will announce its latest monetary policy decision today. FTSE in London led the losses, dropping more than 1.25%. Italy's FTSE MIB more nearly 0.75%. The pan-European stocks at 600 at CAC 40 in Paris each fell more than 0.5%. Frankfurt's DAX also shed close to 0.5%. Now it's time to have a look at the weather report by Munib Hamid.
Welcome to the weather forecast. Now we're going to start with Abu Dhabi, where the weather is expected to be hot, with temperatures rising to 40 degrees Celsius, while in Amsterdam the temperatures are steady at 24 with an unexpected thunderstorm today. Now if we head to Ankara, there is also sunny weather with temperatures at 30. Now moving down under to Auckland, the temperature is chilly at 16 with rain in forecast. Now if you are traveling to Bangkok, there will be a thunderstorm with temperatures around 29 degrees Celsius. Now in Beijing, temperatures are at 27, accompanied with layer of clouds in the sky, while Beirut will also experience partly sunny weather with temperatures at 31. Meanwhile, Berliners will experience temperatures at 26 degrees Celsius, accompanied with sunny sky. Now, if we're heading to Cairo, the sun will be out with temperatures at 37 with clear sunny sky in the forecast. And down under in Canberra, the temperatures are at 19 with partly cloudy weather today. In Islamabad, temperatures are at 29 with thunderstorm in the forecast, while in Jakarta, the temperatures are steady at 33 along with the rain today. And that is all for now. Back to you.
That's all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news.